2024, what a year for gaming. I've seen a lot of people criticize this year's lineup, and honestly, I think they're dead wrong. Sure, AAA and first-party studios were misfiring left and right, but smaller games absolutely stole the spotlight and proved their worth every second of your time. I played a little bit of everything this year. New titles, old classics, and yeah, even some garbage. If I had to sum up the games that really stuck with me in one word, it would be innovative. This is a short list of my favorite games from 2024. Games I think you should definitely play. And make sure you stick around to the end to see my top 4 favorite games I played this year. Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom let me live out a childhood dream, being a toy car. You play as a wind-up taxi in a low-poly platforming collectathon, packed with creative mechanics and levels designed around car physics. Since you're a little car, there's no jump button, so you're constantly finding clever ways to navigate each world. Never before have I zipped, dipped, and struggled to climb up a stupid pillar like this. It was awesome. It's a refreshing take on a classic genre. Between the fast-paced driving, smooth traversal, and quirky sense of humor, Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom was easily one of my favorite indie titles of the year. Do you love kicking ass? Good, because Angerfoot is a boomer shooter all about speed, chaos, and, well, ass kicking. You play as a vigilante whose sneakers have been stolen by local crime gangs, and now you're on a rampage to get them back. This game is as badass as it is hilarious. You'll blast through waves of enemies using an arsenal of weapons and your all-powerful foot. The game is unforgiving, yet dynamic enough to let you stomp through levels however you'd like. With speedrunning potential and an absolutely killer soundtrack, Angerfoot was one of the craziest titles to kick with in 2024. Now, I love Peggle. It's one of my all-time favorite puzzle games. So when I heard about Peglin, a roguelike spin on pachinko mechanics, I was skeptical. But it works so well. You bounce balls to attack enemies, collect power-ups, and push as far as you can through challenging stages. I tried it during early access, but now that it's been fully released, I think it's time to dive back in and bounce some more balls. 2024 was a fantastic year for horror games, and we played some absolute bangers on this channel. Now, I'm a sucker for computer screen horror games, and 98XX, which originally came out in 2023, totally blindsided me. Its simple, unsettling atmosphere sticks with you, even though some of the scares didn't quite land. The hidden lore and unpredictable horror elements left a lasting impression. Then there's KinitoPET. Imagine Clippy from Microsoft Word, but he wants to ruin your life. Kinito is a terrifying antagonist, and the game had some of the best scares I've experienced this past year. I really hope we see more of him someday, even though he tried to dox me early in my YouTube career. Anomaly spawning games were another huge trend in 2024, and few did it better than the Exit 8 and its sequel, Platform 8. You're stuck in a looping, endless corridor, scanning for anything that feels off. Some anomalies are obvious, while others are chillingly subtle. You know a game has made an impact when it spawns hundreds of clones. Seriously, it's like the FNAF clone wave all over again. If you're a big fan of I Spy and you're looking for some unsettling fun, either of these games will get the job done for you. Oh, and Jimbo, I will have my revenge on you one day. I love Five Nights at Freddy's so much that I sent Scott Cawthon an invite to my wedding. He didn't RSVP yet, but I'm sure he will. The franchise turned 10 this year. God, I'm old. And while Help Wanted 2 and the weekly surprise games during Anniversary Week were fun, Into the Pit was the real standout. Based on the first book in the FNAF anthology series, this game nails atmosphere. The pixel art looks insane, the time-traveling mechanics are brilliant, and the scares hit hard. Trying to save my dad has never been this terrifying. Or this fun. But hands down, the scariest game that I played this year was a game called Supernatural. It honestly might be the scariest game I've ever played, and that's saying something because I played both Peppa Pig games. Supernatural is pure horror mastery. You play as a guy investigating ghostly disturbances, but the ghost isn't just waiting for you, it reacts to your every move. The game uses silence to make the creaks and shuffles of the house absolutely terrifying. Oh, and it uses your microphone so the ghost can hear you and talk back. It's a nightmare in the best way possible. The sequel just dropped, but unless it comes with a fresh pair of pants, I'm staying far, far away. Now, if horror isn't your thing, what about being a mischievous little cat? Little Kitty, Big City was the biggest surprise of the year for me. I thought it looked like a weird kids game, but it turned out to be quite fun. It's bright, it's charming, and it lets you live out your fantasy of being a jerk cat, knocking things over, annoying people, and exploring a colorful world. It's pure comfort gaming at its best. I played some older games for the first time this year, and I finally see why they've built such dedicated fan bases. Titanfall 2, what a game! Originally released back in 2016, it's easily my favorite first-person shooter I played this year. The fast-paced combat, which seamlessly blends parkour-like movements with futuristic mech battles, is hands down one of the most refreshing systems I've experienced in years. 1 minute you're sprinting across rooftops, wall running, and outmaneuvering enemies with pinpoint accuracy. The next, Titans are falling from the sky, completely flipping the dynamic as these towering mechs join the fray. It's chaotic, strategic, and ridiculously fun. After spending time with it, I completely understand why Titanfall 2 has such a loyal cult following. It puts most modern shooters to shame. And then there's the second game I tried. Oh boy. Look, I can already hear the collective "oh no" through the screen, but here we go. HuniePop. Yeah. HuniePop. My friends dared me to stream this, and what started as a joke turned into some of the funniest nights we've ever had on Discord. This game is, well, wild. It's a raunchy, over-the-top puzzle game where you take various women out on dates and try to win them over with your excellent puzzle skills. Success in the puzzle determines how well your date goes, and the entire thing is wrapped in absurdly inappropriate humor. But here's the thing, as much as I want to cringe, the actual puzzle mechanics are so solid. If you stripped away, no pun intended, all the ridiculous sexual content, I think I would play this a hell of a lot more often. But let's be real, no one is going to believe me that never mind, I'll just stop talking. Rage games are all the rage these days, and of course I had to torture myself with a few this year. One that really stood out was a difficult game about climbing. It felt like a spiritual successor to Getting Over It. The controls were super tight, so when I fell, I couldn't even blame the game, just myself, and maybe this newly broken keyboard. Then there was Chained Together, which took the only up formula and cranked up the chaos to 11. This time, you're dragging your friends with you the entire way, more like carrying some cinder blocks. Looking at you, Justin. It's the kind of game that can destroy friendships, and I loved every second of it. Now, I'll admit, I don't enjoy Souls-likes. I'm terrible at them. But I did play a little gem that flew under the radar. Another Crab's Treasure. And honestly, it's one of the best Souls-likes I've ever played. The premise is simple. You're a crab looking for a new shell. You fight an army of bizarre sea creatures in a world that's colorful, creative, and surprisingly full of depth. It's everything I wish more Souls-likes would be. Fun, accessible, and not afraid to be weird. If you ever wanted to get into Souls-likes games but were scared off by the difficulty, Another Crab's Treasure is a perfect entry point. Don't get me wrong, you'll still get your shell cracked plenty of times, but at least you'll have fun while it happens. I finally got into Power Simulator this year, and damn, is it great. There's something about just aimlessly walking around and cleaning up ridiculous amounts of dirt. Seriously, what the hell did they do to this playground? That's just so peaceful. There's different washers and attachments that you can buy, and you can take as long as you need to clear every last surface. It's a game that has a lot of love put into it, and a decent amount of content to enjoy. Now, if only I could be this thorough when it comes to cleaning my own house. Marketed as Pokemon with guns, Palworld could have easily been a disaster, but instead, it's one of the most fun and expansive games of the year. There's so much more than just catching pals. You're building bases, you're farming resources, exploring massive worlds, climbing, shooting, flying, and even breeding pals. What started as a meme-worthy looking game turned into a legitimate step forward for the monster catching genre and gave the Pokemon Company some much needed competition. Now, Sony had a really good shooter release this year that captivated audiences everywhere. Not this. Nothing like a fresh cup of democracy. Helldivers 2 came out of nowhere, and now I'll never look at the Terminator series the same way. This third-person PvE shooter has you and your fellow Helldivers dropping into war zones, blasting bugs and robots, and dying. A lot. Sometimes by your enemies, sometimes by your own friends. But hey, It's all in the name of liberty, justice, and massive explosions. Story-driven games are my absolute favorite. A rich narrative will always beat out flashy gameplay for me, no contest. Santa actually got me Life is Strange Double Exposure this year, and I'm beyond excited to dive right into it. But before I could, I needed to finally sit down and play Life is Strange True Colors. This game feels like a softer, more laid-back entry compared to the heavier themes of the first two games. And considering that Life is Strange 1 and 2 are both in my top 10 games of all time, I wanted to make sure I played True Colors when I could really absorb it. What makes these games so special is how deep they immerse you in the role of the main character. You're not just watching the story, you're living it. You're hearing their thoughts, shaping their relationships, and making choices that reveal who they are. Sure, the power in True Colors, the ability to feel and manipulate emotions, isn't as flashy as time travel or telekinesis, but it works perfectly for the tone of the game. True Colors trades its darker, more dramatic moments for something warmer and more personal. It's a game that makes you wish you had lived in a quiet mountain town, surrounded by people who feel real and relationships that actually matter. Now it's time to talk about the best of the best. Here are the top 4 games I played in 2024. Harold Halibut is a masterpiece of storytelling and artistry. Every inch of this game feels handcrafted because, well, it literally is. The game's stop-motion, retro-futuristic art style gives it this tactile charm that so many games try to capture but rarely succeed. It's quirky, it's emotional, and it's one of the most heartfelt journeys I've experienced in years. You play as Harold, a soft-spoken lab assistant living on the Fedora, a massive spaceship that's been submerged at the bottom of an alien ocean for over 250 years. Now the ship is preparing for what might be its final attempt to relaunch. And somehow, quite unassumingly, Harold holds the key to it all. But what makes Harold Halibut so special isn't just its premise, it's the people. The ship feels alive, with vibrant districts and a cast of deeply human characters. Every conversation feels meaningful. Every corner you explore reveals more about this melancholy, lived-in world. And Harold himself, you just want to see him happy. His awkward charm makes him instantly lovable, and watching his story unfold is like watching a friend finally find their place in the world. It's a game about friendship, purpose, and the true meaning of home. And the way it blends its unique art direction with these themes creates something truly unforgettable. Harold Halibut isn't just one of the best games of 2024, it's a piece of art that will stick with me for years to come. Balatro was the definition of a sleeper hit. It's a deck-building roguelike built entirely around poker. And I know what you're thinking, poker? Really? But trust me when I say, this game is addicting in the best way possible. At its core, Balatro uses poker hands as the foundation for its scoring system. But then it throws in jokers that completely break the rules in the most creative ways. These jokers introduce wild modifiers, multipliers, extra draws, special abilities, things that let you build insane strategies. Want a build focused entirely on stacking multipliers? Do it. Want a strategy that floods your hand with cards every round? Go for it. Want to roll the dice on a chaotic build that could make or break your run? Absolutely. No two runs are ever the same because the game constantly challenges you to adapt. The sheer variety of jokers, power-ups, and modifiers gives you endless ways to play, and every choice feels like it could lead to either a genius strategy or a complete disaster. And the craziest part? One person designed this perfectly balanced, endlessly replayable, dopamine-fueled machine. That alone deserves some recognition. Balatro is this year's best obsession, and good luck putting it down once you start. Okay, I already know what the comments are gonna be like, but hear me out, please. I was just as heartbroken as everyone else when Overwatch 2 originally launched. The game felt like a stripped-down version of what made the original so special. It was rushed out, over-monetized, and full of broken promises. Honestly, if Overwatch 2 had been a brand new IP, it would have tanked. But something happened when I came back to it this year. Maybe it was burnout from other shooters, maybe it was nostalgia, but I gave Overwatch 2 another shot, and you know what? It slaps. The 5v5 format feels more polished now than ever, with better hero balancing that actually makes the game more strategic and feel less chaotic. The new game modes keep things fresh, the roster of heroes has expanded in ever-exciting ways, and the crossover events are genuinely cool. But most importantly, the player base that's still playing this game is passionate about it. People are still out there giving it their all, and that energy is infectious. If you've never touched Overwatch or you dropped 2 after its rough launch, now is the time to come back. With games like Marvel Rivals taking the spotlight, Overwatch 2 has to earn its place back. And playing this game again reminded me why I enjoyed it in the first place. For me, it's been the most fun I've had in a competitive shooter all year. Alright, you can roast me in the comments now. And now, the best game of 2024 goes to... Just kidding. Astrobot was hands down the most joyful, polished, and downright fun game I played all year. This game is everything a platformer should be: creative, challenging, and packed with heart. Every level feels like a playground bursting with color and energy. And just when you think it can't get any better, the next level raises the bar. You play as Astro, this little bot with an arsenal of fun abilities, on a mission to rescue his scattered friends across the galaxy. The game constantly introduces new mechanics that keep the gameplay feeling fresh and exciting. Whether you're a sponge soaking up water, a monkey climbing up bananas, or just ice skating through an ice cream themed level, every second feels magical. And the love for PlayStation history, it's everywhere. From hidden collectibles to entire levels designed around iconic PlayStation franchises, this game is a celebration of everything that makes gaming great. Spotting familiar faces of legendary characters as Astrobot versions was such a fun bonus, and it made me feel like a kid again. The boss fights are thrilling, the challenge stages are tough, and the attention to detail in every corner of this game is unreal. My only complaint? I have no idea how they're going to top this with a sequel. They pulled out all the stops, and it really shows. Astrobot is one of those rare games that feels like it only comes once, maybe twice in a generation. It's pure, unfiltered joy, and a reminder of why I fell in love with games in the first place. And that's it. Those are my favorite games of 2024. But hey, that's just my list. Now I want to hear from you. What games stood out for you this year? Which ones made you laugh, cry, and stay up way too late? Drop your favorites in the comments because I'm always looking for new games to check out. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more gaming content, essays, and whatever else I decide to throw at you. Later.